Welcome to step 2 of helping your child to learn the T or the D sound, which is learning these sounds in syllables. Now, at this point, your child should be able to make the T or the D sound all on their own, or at least with very minimal assistance. Now, it's really common for people to think that if their child can make the sound all on its own, then they should be able to jump right into practicing that sound in any words that their child is struggling. But that is actually a bigger jump than you might think. So I'm going to show you in this video how to help your child practice the T or the D in syllables and why that is actually a really helpful stepping point to get them ready to say these sounds in words so that this is a much more positive experience for them to learn either of these sounds. So if your child is having a hard time saying a word like top or dog, but they can make the T or the D sound, to help them get ready, we want to add on just a tiny bit at a time so that it's a lot easier to be able to make those words. And we do this by just adding a vowel, turning this into a syllable level. If we're working on top, we go from doing the T on its own to adding ah, which will eventually help them to more easily be able to add on that last sound and make the word top. Same thing for dog. They're able to make the D sound, and so next step would be to just add the ah sound. With time, they'll be able to more easily add that final sound and say the word dog. So for this level of working on the T or the D with syllables, you're going to take either of those sounds, whichever one you're working on with your child, and you're going to add a vowel after those sounds, and it's going to be the long or the short of each of the vowels. So when you're practicing those, they're going to sound like te, ta, te, ti, tai, ti, to, ta, tu, ta. And the same thing for the D. So if you haven't seen it yet, make sure to check out my step 1 video of teaching the T or the D all on their own, because this will be the most critical thing for them to know, because at any point in working on the T and D at all levels of communication, we constantly will be referring back to how to make that sound all on its own if they need little minor corrections. So just like when we're practicing the T or the D on their own in isolation, when they're able to make the sound on its own, no matter what level of coaching and support you're having to give them, if they're able to get it out correctly, we want to make sure that we have them do that in repetitions of a minimum of 3 to 5 times so that they're practicing it multiple times correctly so that they can start building that muscle memory so that it eventually becomes automatic for them. And remembering that just a handful of short practices during the day, as long as we're being consistent in doing it each day, is going to make a big difference, because consistency helps build those new habits over time. And the other way that we practice at the syllable level is by taking the vowels and placing them before the T or the D. Now let's talk about what to do if your child is having a hard time and they are messing up on the T or the D at this level. Here are 2 different things that you can try. So for example, if you're working on the syllable te, you can tell the child, okay, we're going to practice just the T on its own. We're going to do it 3 times. Do it with me. T, t, t. And if they're able to make the T on its own while having you coach them through it, then you can try putting it back into the syllable so you can coach them through it like this. Okay, we're going to practice doing the T all on its own. Let's do it together. T, t, t. Good. Now we're going to add the A after we do the T. So it's going to look like this. T, t, tay. Now do it with me. T, t, tay. Now say you practice it that way and you try to add the vowel back in with your child and you're coaching them through it, but they're still losing that T or D sound. So the second thing that you can try is to go back and practice at the isolation level again. So you'll just go back and for maybe a day or 2, just have them practice the T or the D like you did before in the isolation level. And again, this is just going to help them strengthen that muscle memory. When you need to, just remind them of those little techniques to get their tongue in place, and then come back and see if you can add the vowel to it again. One last technique that you can try is breaking up the T or the D with the vowel with a large pause in between, and practicing those and then gradually shortening that pause. So starting out, it could look like d, ah, d, ah, and then gradually you want to decrease that pause. D, ah, d, ah, d, ah. And then eventually see if you can hold it out and blend them together. D, ah, d, ah, d, ah, da, da. So you'll go through and you'll practice the T or D with each of those vowel combinations. And then once your child is able to do that pretty independently or with minimal help, I would say make sure that you practice at least a couple days where they can confidently do it, again, to really build that muscle memory and help them feel more confident and have it be more automatic for your child. And then once they're getting to that point, you can try moving on to practicing one of these sounds at the word level. And as you're going through and you're practicing these techniques with your child, if at any point you feel like you're hitting some roadblocks and you can't get past a certain point with your child and you would like a little bit of one-on-one coaching from me, then make sure to go to my website where you can book a one-on-one consultation with me, and we'll make sure to help you and your child work through this so that we can help your child get on their way to being able to make the T or the D sound in the highest levels of communication and help build your child's confidence.